Hello, and welcome to the Sacred Path podcast. I am your host, Priscilla Bernstein, the Soul Alignment Specialist. And in this podcast, we will literally be talking about all things of the soul journey. So, whether that be your spiritual path, sacred plant medicines, healing, transformation, sacred sexuality, divine union, soul alignment, manifestations, and so much more. We are literally covering it all, and we are going deep, 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 as well as far and wide. We are really going to be quantum jumping and helping you understand not only what it means to be living in your sovereignty and within your divine self, but what it means to actually live a life on purpose and a life of fulfillment while you are following your soul purpose and soul mission in this life. So get ready, buckle up, enjoy the episode, and we'll see you on the other side. Hello, loves, and welcome back to another episode of The Sacred Path. I took a big break at the end of the year and have just been really focused on me and my life and what I'm doing and creating and healing and resourcing and mining and whatnot. But ultimately, what I really have felt called and not only to share, but what I've been getting major downloads on recently is this new administration. And so I'm just going to riff on this right now. And ultimately, whatever comes through, comes through. So, what first and foremost, what happened with the election was total collusion. I got that very, very strongly through my guidance that this was not planned, but ultimately that what did occur created a domino effect ultimately for radical change that needed to happen. And so I am pretty much dutifully going to be titling this like the revolution has begun. So ultimately, what we've seen from this new administration and what is happening very, very quickly is a lot of chaos. And what's really interesting about this chaos is it's not only bringing about the radical change that we need, but if you've been following me for quite some time, whether you subscribe to my cosmic newsletter or have followed me on Instagram, um, or any other of my work and platforms for the last 5 or 6 years, I've really been talking a lot about our foundations, our structural foundations changing in society. And this has been coming through pretty much since 2019, 2020, right? So even before we went into the pandemic, this really kind of like there was a really big undercurrent of a shift beginning at the end of, like middle to end of 2019. And what was really interesting about this, maybe even in 2018, actually, this kind of started, but what's really interesting about this is the energy, right? Like the more awakened we become on the planet, the more awakened and conscious we become as human beings, uh, being a soul that's embodied in human form at this time, all of our souls are evolving. All of our, the collective consciousness is evolving. All of our cells are evolving, and we are literal transformational machines right now. And so what I'm being shown is almost like Terminator, right? Like, so there were, visions that this mother had, Sarah, that she had in the movie, right? And everybody dubbed her crazy. And she was like, I'm not crazy. I'm just telling you what's about to happen, right? And so what we dub as crazy is somebody usually being ahead to the party, right? Like early to the party. But ultimately, I've been dubbed crazy a lot in my life for things that I'm sharing and things that I have, you know, preluded to. And people are like, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm just letting you know energetically what's coming, what's about to happen. And so, with this being said, the energy when we are more awakened, when you are more awakened, when your energy is heightened, you and your third eye is open, when your crown chakra is open, when you have access to your upper three chakras and have learned to embody what is happening energetically, not only in your field, but around you, you become more heightened to energy itself. And so when we become heightened to energy itself, we can feel the energy shift way before anything else is felt or known, right? So energetically, you already have been feeling this big energetic shift, especially if you're listening to my podcast, especially if you feel and you align with being an awakened being, with being a light seed, a star seed, light worker, a healer, any way, shape, or form that you feel like you are part of the revolutionary energy here on the planet of a being that is meant to help restore balance or ascend the collective consciousness or humanity. If you resonate with any of that, you have probably been feeling this energy for quite some time, even though we may not be able to put words to it, right? So this energy could be dubbed anxiety. This energy could be dubbed fear. This energy could be dubbed uh, something being off, right? Like it's just like you might even feel off, but it's like it's not so much that you feel off, you may feel that other people around you are off, right? And so, or you may feel that what's happening in the world, something's off, right? It doesn't matter what they're saying, but like energetically, you can feel that something is off, right? And so when we talk about, the energy that we carry, that we're feeling from the energy that we're picking up on, when you allow yourself to really just get super quiet and clear and alone with yourself in your energy, in your field, and you can really tap in, you can begin to decipher and unpack whatever this energy is, whether it's anxiety, whether it's fear, whether it's like depression. If you're empathetic in any way, shape, or form, you've been feeling this, right? The collective consciousness. So many people are part of this quote unquote 4 a.m. club, where on the morning of the election, they woke up. It was mostly women. The majority of these people are women, but there were a lot of men too. And what's really interesting about this is the idea that it's like everybody knew that something was off when they woke up. And when they woke up, it was like there was anxiety, there was fear, there was this like surge of emotion, but then everything went to peace and this understanding or knowing that ultimately everything was going to be okay, right? And so energetically, they felt, they knew whether or not they were spiritual, whether or not they were on the spiritual path, whether or not they align with anything having to do with energetics. Like so many people were like, I don't know anything about this, but I woke up at 4 a.m. and I knew something was off and I had a little panic attack and then everything went quiet, and I felt peace and I just knew that everything was going to be okay, right? And so it's the same type of energy. Like we're all becoming so finely attuned as souls being embodied at this time on the planet. And when we talk about all of us mentors and healers and light workers and coaches that are sharing, spiritual coaches that are sharing this information about what is coming and how these waves of awakenings are happening on the planet. When we talk about this stuff, this is all speeding up. We're in a quickening right now. Everything has gotten a lot faster. And so what went through waves of like maybe thousands to tens of thousands of people is happening to hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. And it's like it doesn't matter if you've gone through a spiritual awakening already. We still have multiple spiritual awakenings that we go through. We still have multiple ascension processes that we go through. We still go through dark nights of the soul when we have a lot to break down. And so for a lot of the collective, like just a few days ago, it's probably last week, maybe. It was like there was so much heaviness in the field, and I felt so much heaviness, and it was bringing up all this like gunk from my past and my, any like heavy emotions that I had carried in my field. But I was like so sad and I was so heavy. And what was so interesting about this is it was from like one day to the next, I was totally fine. And the next day I was like, wow, everything's really heavy. I cried a lot. I went through so much of my emotional shit that had to do with relationships, that had to do with the divine masculine, that had to do with letting go and surrendering, and really being able to just like understand and know my quote unquote strength in being alone at this time, right? And so, what was really interesting about this was I knew that it wasn't just mine, and the heaviness was like intense, like I knew this wasn't just my stuff because I've been working on healing my divine masculine wound and my father wound, and just recalibrating back to a state of homeostasis and divine union within for the last 5 years ultimately. And so I knew this wasn't just mine, right? And so the more that I tapped into it, the more that I sat with it, the more I unpacked and kind of untangled the collective, um, I guess, toxic patriarchy that we've been living in, the heaviness of the unhealed divine masculine, the fragile masculinity that uses power, that uses fear, that uses these tactics of control to suppress not only the divine feminine, but our power within ourselves, our intuition, our alignment, listening to our inner voice, really even just aligning and preaching that, religion is the way, when it's like, well, actually, religion is the thing that tells you that God is something outside of yourself. When in spirituality, it's like, God is within you. And if you remember that, you remember your power. And when you remember your power, you have access to that, to said power, and you can go and do whatever it is that you need to go and do in the world, and you will have the resources that you need to go do those things that you need to do, because you have accessed that power, because you have remembered the divine within you, because you have um, remembered or come home to yourself and understood that God is, or source is, or the universe is you embodied, right? And so this is something that's really beautiful, but also, has been greatly misunderstood over time, and has been, unfortunately, greatly mistaught over millennia, to say that Jesus is the way, right? But the second coming of Christ is actually Christ consciousness within, being awoken within each and every one of us. It's not that some being is going to come down from the heavens and save us. Like that's not the second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ, and this idea of Christ consciousness, is awakening the Christ consciousness within each and every one of us. It's awakening the divine masculine and divine feminine within each and every one of us. It's about healing our divine masculine wounds and our divine feminine wounds. And it's about finding that recalibration within ourselves, right? And so as we do this, this is why my work is so focused on the divine feminine and the divine masculine right now, because divine union within and the understanding of accessing our divinity within is our super highway to not only accessing our power, but to being in our sovereignty, to helping us understand that nothing outside of ourselves, our circumstances, don't dictate who we are and how we show up and how we can create and manifest from limitless abundance. which is God energy, source energy, the collective consciousness, right? Christ consciousness. When we're talking about Christ consciousness, when we're talking about the divine feminine, the divine masculine, for millennia, we have been in a toxic patriarchy. We have been in so many cultures that rule from the iron fist, that rule from a place of power, from greed, from instilling greed, fear, um, and having control over those to induce fear, to indoctrinate their power, right? And so the more that we can come back, the more that we can come home to ourselves, to awakening this Christ consciousness within, to awakening that God and the divine is within each and every one of us, the quicker we ascend into our not only accessing our power, but into our divinity, into our role and purpose on this planet of what we're here and meant to do, into our positions of quote unquote said power, right? So many of us are being directed right now to move, to change locations, to adjust accordingly, and whatever we are being called to do, aka through the energy that we're receiving, when we're listening to this, when we're listening to that divine guidance from our guides and angels, from our higher selves, from our cellular DNA that's always speaking to us, we are being moved into our position of power. We are being moved into the right place, being in the right place at the right time. We are being set up to lead in whatever way, shape, or form we're meant to lead, whether that is leading your family or leading your direct community, your local community, or whether that is doing something on a broader spectrum on the world stage, right? It doesn't matter what your purpose is. It could be just leading one person. It doesn't have to mean the masses, right? So when we are really allowing ourselves to get into not only our energy, but to remember our connection to the divine, when we allow ourselves to understand and unlock the Christ consciousness within, there is so much to be said about where we're being guided to. And when we follow that divine guidance, just know that not only are you possibly doing grid work wherever you're being called to, but you're being called to awaken and be awakened by certain people in that area, in that field, or on the grid wherever you're going, right? It's an exchange of energy, reciprocity is happening. And so going back to what I was saying at the very beginning when I was talking about energy, when you're tapped and tuned in and turned on to your energy specifically, when you unplug from the fear-inducing media or things that are, it could just even be friends and family or other people that are, you know, what they're speaking invokes or elicits kind of fear or worry or doubt within you, or any sort of other low vibrational energy, right? Like, pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with right now. Pay attention to who you are engaging with, what you're engaging with, what you're ingesting, not only food wise, but like media, right? Pay attention to all of these things, because when you are raising in vibrational frequency, you will understand very quickly through quote unquote your energy field and what you're receiving within your energy field, who and what is in alignment with this new frequency that you're at, who and what makes you feel out of alignment, who and what makes you feel as if they're dragging you down into lower vibrational frequencies, right? Adjust accordingly to be in the frequency that feels best to you, that feels most in alignment to you. This may even mean that you're spending a lot of time alone, and that's okay. I mean, my guides took me to Montana and had me spend the majority of my time alone in Montana out in nature to really recalibrate me to a completely different frequency than I had ever been before, right? And so, a lot of you may have to make cuts. You may have to move people out of your life or distance yourself from certain people. You may have to readjust what you're doing in the world via work, right? If you're doing something that feels soul sucking, that you feel is like super draining on your energy on it and taxing on you and your body, and your spirit every day, and it's like you can't, it's like you dread going to work, and when you're done you can't like wait to get home, and you feel like a complete shift when you walk in the door after being at work all day, that it's like your nervous system can finally calm down, right? That should be a really big indicator for you that it's time to start looking for a new job, that it's time to start seeking, or planning your next move of whatever feels more in alignment for you. Okay, so we get the energy so much quicker, and when we have an energetic shift, this happens fast. Everything happens very quick when it comes to energy. But because we're dense beings, vessels on this 3D plane, things take quote unquote time to catch up in the physical reality. So energetically, when you spend some time alone with yourself and you unplug from the outside world, and you really get clear on what is your energy and what is not, when you're in that frequency of understanding that um, what you're feeling, and you start to unpack that stuff, you can start to untangle and really see, oh, I'm actually really out of alignment with the people that I work with. I'm really out of alignment with the people I've been spending time with. I'm really out of alignment with those, those things that I've been watching. It's like not actually serving me. So you unplug from those things, right? You start to distance yourself. You start to spend more time in nature. You start to spend more time alone. When you spend time alone in your own energy field, you start to clear your energy field. When you unplug from social media, when you unplug from um, like just, regular news media that's being fed to you through the corporations, right? When you unplug from watching the news, from reading the newspaper, from even like knowing 24/7 what's going on in the world, this is actually a good thing for certain periods of time, right? It's good to be informed, but it's also really good to unplug from that so you can get back to the truth of what is true for you, right? So many people ask me, how did you get to where you got? How do you do what you do? In what like way, shape, and form? Like, what are the things that you did to become such a powerhouse in like how you receive? Like, how do you do that? And it's like, spend time alone. Unplug from social media, unplug from your friends, spend time in nature, ample amounts of time in nature. And this isn't saying you have to go off grid and like spend a year alone, in solitary. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is doing this consistently, like taking time alone. The pandemic was kind of this great reset for us, but we're still in the great reset. Like, this is already like, this has been happening. We're like in this revolutionary energy that's coming from the great reset. And so there is something to be said from, you know, the first time this guy was in administration and the second time, right? We're seeing very clearly there is a very big agenda at play and a lot of chaos that is um, being thrown at us, and it's like rapid fire. Like, there's no downtime. Every day there's something new that's been happening, right? And so with this tactic, if you will, this is kind of like, I feel like a war tactic, right? With this tactic, the energy is like, okay, hold on. If we unplug from all of this and we take a beat and we really feel energetically into what's happening, we will start to understand, okay, this is something to instill not only more fear, but to divide us. And when we're divided, we hold less power. And so, again, we need to understand what is actually truth from what is a false narrative, right? Or what is a decoy to distract you. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many distractions have been happening from plane crashes to aliens. It's like, okay, hold on. Okay, what is actually true here? And like, why is this shit happening? Right. And so when you really just sit with that, when you just sit in meditation with that, like, you don't have to be seeking an answer, but when you just put that question out there, when you put a question out to your guides, to your angels, to the universe, and you just let it reverberate in your field for a while without seeking the answer will find you. And so, to go back to what I was saying before about how people ask me, how did you get to where you got to? I spent a lot of time alone and I would sit with these questions. I would sit with, what am I here to do? What is my purpose? And let that kind of reverberate in my field. And the information always found me, whether it was in 12 hours, whether it was in 2 hours, whether it was in 24 to 48 hours, or whether it was 2 months later, the information will find you, right? All you have to do is keep putting the question out there. When we put the question out there, this is something that I'm writing about in my book, but it's like, when we put these bigger questions out there, they create like a portal for the universe, for our higher selves, for our guides and angels to fill, right? So when you're asking these bigger questions, what is actually true from what is false? What is a decoy and a distraction from what's really happening? Please give me the answer, right? Like, you just put that out there and let it reverberate in your field. You can ask it a few times, you can ask it once a day, like whatever you want, but like, sit in meditation, sit in silence, go on walks without listening to music or a podcast, right? Be in nature, allow yourself and your nervous system and your body to have downtime to receive, right? To be able to down regulate. If you work a really stressful job, or you've been in a relationship or in a household where you're not in alignment with the people that you're around, that feel like they drag you down, but you don't have the resources to quote unquote move out right now, then just take longer walks. Take a walk every day. Take a longer walk every day. Go and sit and spend time under a tree in nature, right? Or like in the desert, or wherever you are, in the mountains. But allow yourself to just sit and be with nature. Allow yourself to commune with your guides and angels, with your body, with the insects and the flora and fauna around you, right? As you do this, as you become more plugged into the quote unquote all that is the natural world, you will start to receive as more and more, as your nervous system downregulates and your body relaxes, more and more you will start to receive the answers that you seek. More and more of the answers will start to come into your field. And they may not come through clairaudience or clairvoyance or claircognizance. It may come when you get back in the car and you turn on your radio, right? It may come from the next podcast you listen to. It may come through your friend saying something. It may come through a conversation that you overhear, right? It may come through a magazine article that you happen to read at the doctor's office, right? It like, there is no telling where it can come from. It may come through a song, but it's like, it will come to you, and that's what you have to do, is trust. And so, with all this being said, I just want to focus on that word trust right now, because trust is something that we need to have almost blind faith with right now. Trusting the process, trusting ourselves, trusting what it is that we're receiving from our higher self, not from the media, trusting what we're receiving from our intuition, from the energy that we are feeling. Because when you are tapped in, tuned in, and turned on, when you are an awakened being and you are plugged into the collective consciousness, we are sharing information rapid fire. Okay? We all are feeling everything right now. And when you are awakened and you become tapped in, tuned in, and turned on, so many more of us that have already gone through our first spiritual awakening, who have gone through multiple spiritual awakenings, multiple ascension processes, so many of us that are here at this kind of like heightened level of energy reading, with being an empath and a light worker and starseed, we are becoming more and more sensitized to the energy, the frequencies that are playing out. And it's up to us to be able to decipher this stuff for ourselves, okay? So the trust is something that has to come innately from within you. Do not trust what you're hearing on the media. Do not trust what you're hearing in the news fully, 100%, right? Always tune back into your inner knowing. Always unpack those boxes. If you're hearing something and you're like, okay, okay, don't feed into the fear, but instead sit with that and be like, what is actually true from what is, being kind of elaborated here? Or is there something else that's being hidden? Really pay attention to things that you're picking up on, because your body, your cellular DNA, your higher self, your guides and angels, all of it is speaking to us right now. The collective consciousness is raising in frequency, but there's still a lot of chaos happening in the collective consciousness, right? So it's up to us to be the decipherers, to be the decoders, to be the people that are unpacking what it is that we are feeling when things feel off. And the more that we do this, the stronger this ability gets within us. And it becomes something that you won't even have to really sit and think about anymore. It's just something that becomes a superpower to you. It becomes second nature to you, right? These are all abilities that I have over time strengthened. All of the clear abilities I have, telepathy I have, intuition I have, telepathic communication, like all of the things, I have them. And so this is something, I'm not saying this to brag, but it is something that I have over time through these practices have gotten stronger with. And it's like, you cannot lie to an awakened being. When you are tapped and tuned in and turned on to your higher chakras, to your source energy, when you're connected to your soul and to the collective consciousness, and you are continually asking to be shown the truth, guess what? Anytime somebody says something that is bullshit, that is out of alignment with the truth, you pick up on that almost instantly. And this is, again, a skill or a muscle that has to be strengthened. So every time that you're asking this, it has to come from something that is awareness first and foremost. But every time that you attune to that and you are asking to be shown the truth, guess what? You will always get those little alarm bells. You will always feel that little niggle or tinge that something's off, right? You will always be able, there will always be like a bullshit barometer that just becomes more and more sensitized over the time that you are doing this. And again, it becomes second nature to where it doesn't matter what someone says, what someone does. You're just like, okay. You don't even have to call them out on it. You're just like, okay, you want to lie to me? Like, cool. But you can feel something's off. You already know something's off. And it's like, if that made you feel better to lie or to make some grandiose story, like, okay, no big deal. But at the same time, you just continue on knowing, okay, that person likes to lie. That person likes to fabricate things. Like, we're not going to trust them anymore, right? Or what they say. So it's kind of that same sentiment, right? Like, you start to distance yourself from that person. You start to realize they're out of alignment, right? And so again, it's this idea that no matter who you voted for or what you thought was going to be the outcome, the revolution has begun. And if you're listening to this, and if you've gotten this far in this episode, you understand and you know that there is something at play that is not on the up and up. And so this is your time to realign to your power, to your truth. This is your time to come home to yourself and to activate these higher abilities within yourself. The revolution has begun, and it will and won't be televised. It will be heavily guarded, I feel like, but there's a lot that has to happen underground right now. There's a lot that has to happen on secure platforms. There's a lot of collaborating and coming together and quote unquote resistances growing that has to happen against the toxic patriarchy. And what I really want to like dig into here is that if you have been feeding into the fear, if there has been a lot of fear in your field and in your energy that you've been picking up on, you're not alone. But what I do want to say is that you do hold so much more power than you actually know. And when you can really tap back into that by realigning to source energy, realigning to your higher self, realigning to what it is that you are receiving by spending more time alone, by unplugging, by even taking supplements like Ormus. This is liquid gold. This will help you to activate and really connect back to your higher chakras and your ultimate connection with the divine, right? Ormus is a really beautiful supplement that you can use. Another supplement that I love is I forgot what I was gonna say. I didn't don't not going off any notes here. I'm just kind of riffing super hard, but I just started thinking more about Ormus. Taking fluoride out of your everyday use, like buying a toothpaste without fluoride in the toothpaste. This will decalcify your pineal gland. Stop drinking tap water and start either put a like reverse osmosis or a higher pH like filtration system on your tap if that's what you do, or start buying reverse osmosis or high pH water. This will help to also decalcify your pineal gland. Um, let's see, other supplements. Chlorophyll is actually going to be really, really good because chlorophyll is what's in plants, right? And we get sun codes from chlorophyll. And this is something, just spending time outside in the sun is actually going to be really good for you to receive those sun codes, but also having chlorophyll in your diet. You can put chlorophyll with a little bit of peppermint in water and drink that, and it's really super refreshing. And it has another benefit of actually making you and your body odor actually smell really good. It like decreases body odor, whether that's foot odor, vaginal odor, sweat, like BO, bad breath, all of those things. It like eliminates all of that and helps to really kind of bring your body back into alignment with the flora and fauna around you. Okay, so other things that you can do are Kundalini practices. The Satnam practice is a really great practice. This is something that you can do sitting Indian style or sitting on your heels in rock pose. But I highly suggest doing this the traditional way, which is interlacing all your fingers except your pointer fingers, which are pressed together and pointing up. And if you're a woman, your left thumb goes over your right. And if you're a man, your right thumb goes over your left. But you raise your arms up and you bring them on either side of your head, and you bring your chin and neck to a 90-degree angle and just allow your shoulders to relax even though your arms are up above you, right? And as you sit in this pose, you want to set a timer for at least 3 minutes, but you will say Sat and you'll pull your belly button in towards your spine, and then when you say Nam, you'll relax the belly completely. And you just want to do this over and over again for 3 minutes. The Satnam practice, what you're literally saying, the literal translation is I am. And so I personally will teach this to my clients, and I highly recommend doing it with sitting in this pose and doing the like pumping with the stomach when you are doing this, because this will help to activate your Kundalini quicker. This will help to bring the proteins and peptides in your spinal fluid that are dormant at the base of your spine all the way back up into your brain, and really kind of clear your pineal gland, open up your brain synapses, and allow the spinal fluid and the brain fluid to flow a lot better. This will also reactivate your vagus nerve if your vagus nerve has been kind of shut down from stress. Our vagus nerve goes from our like pubis area all the way to our brain, and it's interconnected throughout everything in the central nervous system. And so when that gets shut down, it allows us to be cut off from our higher self. It allows us to dissociate from our body easier. And I can understand why you would want to dissociate in a chaotic time like this, but this is the time that we need to be most embodied. This is the time that we need to be most aware. This is the time that we need to be most plugged into our higher selves, to the divine and our divine nature, to understand and hold our power and to utilize and wield our power in a way that will benefit not only our lives and ourselves, but those closest to us are near and dear, and to the collective at large. Okay. So the Satnam practice is really great. If you are having too much trouble with the traditional Satnam practice, I will say that when you start at 3 minutes, you want to work up to in 3 minute increments. So when 3 minutes feels like nothing, work up and change your timer to 6 minutes. And then you want to go to about 9 minutes. You can go up further, but always increase at 3 minute increments. But I would try to get to 12 minutes fully. And as you do this, if it is hard, it's hard on your body because it hurts, after a while to have your arms up like that. But it's like if you're doing this, you will feel the activation start to happen. And when you're done with the however long you're doing it, take a deep breath in and hold your breath at the top of the inhale. Focus on your third eye and your crown chakra. And you can bring your arms down by your sides and bring them into fists and just squeeze all of the muscles from your root upwards into your diaphragm area. You want to squeeze all that and pull all the energy upward and just hold it in your third eye in your head. And then hold it for about 30 seconds to 60 seconds and then exhale, and then take another breath, inhale and hold again for about 30 to 60 seconds. You want to do this 3 times and then just rest and relax and then go into your meditation. But if this is too much for you, if that just feels way too difficult as you're doing it, you can just sit in meditation and just breathe. And with each inhale, you can say Sat, and with each exhale, you can say Nam, or I am. And this is the two, when I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but I've said this many times before, I am is the strongest vibrational, like, two words that you can say in the English language or in any language. I am. Because when you're just saying I am, you are literally sending out the vibration of what your truth is. And like I said, the truth, your answers will find you. If you're doing this practice consistently and doing this every day, I highly recommend first thing in the morning. But you can do this at any time of day to, again, reactivate and keep your nervous system down regulated, to bring your vagus nerve back online and fully functioning, and to really fully combat any sort of outside influence or fears or energies that may be trying to bring you out of your alignment with who you truly are, right? So those are kind of like really big key pieces that I would suggest right off the bat. And just doing those like 4 things: taking chlorophyll, bringing ormus into your diet. Another thing is blue lotus flower, actually. This is another one that will connect you really deeply with your soul to help you access more of your soul records. More of the purpose of why you're here, right? All of these things, the taking fluoride out of your everyday use, and really kind of bringing yourself back up into alignment by doing the Satnam practice. Those are kind of going to be really big key components if you want to accelerate and move forward in your most aligned state. and stepping into the path and the purpose that you're meant to be on through this kind of like revolution that we are finding ourselves in right now. Okay. So, I'm trying to think of where else I want to go or what else I want to say here. But ultimately, you hold so much power. And I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you, not only for listening to this whole episode, but for the journey that you've been on, for the journey that you've taken, for the amount of knowledge that you've uncovered, for the amount of work that you've done, and for the being that you are on the planet at this time. I want to say not only thank you, but I also want to say that I know we're all tired. I know we're all worried, and I know that we all can't do this alone, that we have to be able to work together, that we have to be able to come together, that we have to be functioning from a higher vibrational frequency as opposed to feeding into what is playing out at this moment. And as we do that, I'm doing my best to give you all not only the foundational pieces that you will need moving forward, but any information that is coming through to help you see the broader picture of what is playing out energetically, and what is to come. Right. So I was getting that there is going to be a really big congressional hearing coming up. I don't know when that's happening or what's going to come of it, but I do know that there hasn't been any checks and balances yet. And we're really seeing how quickly our government as it was, our foundation as it was, how quickly it can be disseminated and disassembled, right? We're seeing this play out in rapid succession, and it can be very scary. But at the same time, we cannot feed into the fear. We have to be an observer at this time and be pulling data. And as you're pulling data, doing your work within yourself, staying in your field, accessing your higher self, down regulating your nervous system regularly, and coming back to your higher state of consciousness on a continuous basis. And as you do this, you will not only be able to see what is true from what is false more quickly, but you will also be asking those bigger questions, right? What is it that I need to know here? Is there something else playing out? What is the truth from what is false? Like, show me. Whatever it is that you're asking, what am I here to do? What is my purpose? How can I help at this time? Like whatever it is that you're asking, just know that you're opening up portals for the answers to come in, and they will come. And so as you're being diligent with your work right now, this isn't what I'm giving you through this episode is not something that you need to just add to your to-do list. It's something that needs to become like an everyday way of life for you, because as you allow yourself to get more fully encompassed in your energy, as you allow yourself and give yourself permission to access more of your divine nature, and as you align more with the truth of who you are, the more power you are going to be in moving forward, the less that the things playing out in your physical reality and on the world stage will scare you, the less fear that you will feed into, because you will know and have this deeper understanding within yourself that things are working out as they need to, that the dominoes are falling as they need to, that there's a trigger effect happening right now. And we just kind of have to let this play out. But at the same time, we can come together. And when you're doing these practices, when you are bringing these supplements into your life, when you're eliminating things like fluoride and aluminum out of your everyday, read your labels, people, please. If you're using an antiperspirant deodorant, eliminate it. Go into a natural deodorant that does not have aluminum in it. Read what is in your ingredients, whether that is in your food, in the products that you use on your body, in the supplements that you're taking. Pay close attention, because what we have been in this toxic patriarchy for millennia is being cut off from our power, is being told what to do, is being in fear so we can be programmed, controlled, and manipulated. But this is our time that we are waking up. This is your time to fully wake up to your divinity, to your power, to your sovereignty, to who you're here to be at this time on the planet and why your soul came here, right? And if you're doing this continually on an everyday basis, what's happening out there won't affect you so deeply. Yes, you can still be empathetic and understand that you are part of it, but you also have a role to play in it to change it, right? So, wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just starting out and you feel like a total novice and a beginner, by taking those supplements and eliminating those certain things and doing the Satnam practice, by just doing those handful of things, you will accelerate your gifts, your knowledge, and your understanding exponentially. Excuse me, if you want confirmation, if you want to work with someone like me that is a mentor, whether it's one-on-one coaching, whether it's through a course that I'm running, or whether you want to sign up for my Patreon and get more from me every month through that, um, that is your choice, but you can do that. That is something that you can choose to do to accelerate yourself and be tapped into a divine conduit, a vessel, a multi-channel vessel that is here to help humanity, that is here to help you ascend, that is here to help you decipher and really step into your power and your truth, to decipher your truth from what people have sold you or what you've been taught, right? And it's like you can get there on your own 1000%, but if you want to get there faster, you work with a mentor, right? I will always, always, always promote mentorship, not just because it's good for me and my business, but because after working with mentors over the last 2 decades, I could see just how much further I got when I had a mentor, how little I got caught in the sludge or the lack or the worry and the fear and um, the down times when I have a mentor by my side to help pick me up, to help me see things from a higher perspective or a different perspective, right? Always work with somebody that is a little more ascended than you, that has been in the business longer than you, that is accumulating and acquiring and has already accessed the knowledge that you wish to have. When you decide to invest in a mentor like this, when you decide to invest in yourself, it's an investment in you. It's not so much an investment in them, even though, yes, you're paying them or you're giving them energetic exchange through your money, but you're investing in you, in your path, in where you're going, and they're helping you get there. They want to see you get there. We want to see you get there. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you thrive, and we want to see you excel in whatever it is that you are here to do. Okay, so I will leave it there, but ultimately, you have a role to play in this revolution, and it is up to each and every one of us now to be our most sovereign, our most divine, and our most powerful self. Live in your authenticity, align with your truth. Authenticity is an even higher vibration than unconditional love. So meet people with unconditional love. It doesn't matter their political affiliation. It doesn't matter how unaligned you are with them. Meet them with unconditional love and understand that they just may not be awakened yet. They may not be at the level that you're at yet. They may be a very young soul that is filled with fear and worry and doubt and low self-esteem. they may need, and they may just be a clear player, like they may need to be told what to do, right? And they may be a clear player that is somebody that is meant to trigger you and help you evolve even further. That may be the purpose of their life here on the planet, is to be a trigger for people to help them align, right? We never know why a soul signed up in this lifetime, and there are souls that signed up to be the villains, to help shake things up on the planet, to help us understand where we needed to be. But we are definitely seeing not only just how quickly the structures and the foundations need to change, but how the foundations are being and have been set for the minority, for the select 1%, right? For those with power already. And that is what is crumbling. That is a foundation that's crumbling. But what we're seeing out play out right now is this last grip for power of like, how much can we get done as quickly as humanly possible, and how can we create a lot of chaos to increase the fear and divide the masses in order to ultimately move the things that we need to move without anybody seeing, right? It's a last ditch effort grip on the fear and control, or the control through fear, the power struggle through fear and control, which is ending. And that is why we are being awakened. That is why we are being called to collaborate and to come together at this time with those that we feel in alignment with those that we know are authentically looking to help humanity, that are looking to create a world for the greater good of all, that are looking for wholeness, that are looking for that harmony and how to create that harmony and peace, not only within themselves, but within the collective that they live and reside within, that they are leading in, right? And so more and more people are attuned to that. More and more people are awakening to that. So pay attention to where you're being called, to what you're being called to do, to who you're being called to work with. Really listen to that, and don't let fear get in the way, even if it's fear of resources. If you know you truly want something or you want to work with somebody, commit within yourself and say, I really want to work. Like, let's say you want to work with me, but my whatever I have on offer is just out of alignment with your budget at this time. But you know that I'm the person that you align with and that you really want to work with me. When you say, I am going to work with that woman, I'm going to work with her, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know I'm going to work with her. You can sign up at the lowest investment rate that I have in my Patreon for $11.11, right? That can be your start. You can invest through a reading and get a credit to invest larger that you can utilize in a larger platform or a larger offering, and use that credit to get a discount off of it, right? And build your way up to the bigger thing. Or you can just put it out there and say, guides, angels, spirit team, I really want to work with Priscilla. How can I make this happen? And when you'll get that divine guidance of things that you need to do, of maybe something you need to sell or a move that you need to make, and you do it, and then all of a sudden you get this windfall of money that you can utilize to work with me, right? It doesn't matter how, when you are 100% behind what it is that you are wanting to do, whether it's working with a mentor like me or doing something else like moving across the country or moving to another continent, right? Another country altogether. Like, let's say you're feeling the urge to leave the country, but you don't have the resources or the funds to do that. But you're like, I know I need to leave and I want to leave. And like, how do I get there? Follow those pings, the divine inspiration, the whatever your intuition is telling you to do on a daily basis. Follow those things, and as you follow those things, just know that your guides and angels, your spirit team, source energy, the universe is always taking you down the path of least resistance. So it probably won't make sense in the moment, but if you're following it and you're trusting it and you're walking that fine knife's edge of walking kind of to your destination without going too far one way or the other, but you're like living in that state of trust, guess what? Everything falls into place and everything works out. But that commitment, that conviction has to be there first. It has to be there first. And then you have to know that it is going to happen. You can't doubt, you can't worry, you can't fear, you can't be flailing and be like, well, it's never going to happen. Well, I don't know if it's going to happen. Because then you're just throwing a bunch of weird energy and wobble into your manifestation, right? But if you're really connected, if you're really tapped and tuned in and turned on and said, no, I'm going to work with that woman, or I'm going to move to that country. I don't know how, but it's going to fucking happen. And you just anchor into that. And every time um, your physical reality is telling you otherwise, you have to double down and say, nope, no, I don't care what my circumstances are. I don't care what my bank account is showing me. I don't care that I'm in the red again. I don't care that this is telling me that it's not going to happen, because I know it's going to happen. And when you're in that knowing and you keep anchoring back to that, the universe has to deliver. It has to. It has to, because your energetic frequency is already there. It's already living in the end. So when we know that everything's going to work out for the greater good of humanity, and we anchor into that, we got to keep anchoring into that. And we got to anchor into that hard. And as we anchor into that every single day, everything is always working out for us. Everything is always working out for humanity. We will get there. I promise. But this is your time to step into your most authentic truth. This is your time to align with your divinity and your sovereignty. This is your time and your invitation to really access your points of power right now, and to unplug from the machine, from the matrix. Just like in the Matrix, when Neo got unplugged and realized, like, oh, this was all simulation, and the resistance is underground, and it's not as like pristine and pretty. It's kind of like grimy, and okay, like this is what we're doing, right? This is what we're doing. Going back to Terminator, it's like we got to go underground. We got to work. We got to build the resistance. We've got to align and get behind this revolutionary energy of massive change needing to happen. And guess what? Chaos creates massive change. And it is through chaos, it is through loss, it is through the biggest things that we have ever had, the biggest like inventions or uh, accelerations in human possibility that have ever happened always come from a time when we're in depression, when we're in a time of um, economic downfall, when we're in a time of chaos. This is when those genius minds come online and are like, we got to make a change here. Like, we can't have this fail again. We can't come back to this point again. So let's create something that will help accelerate us into a new paradigm, right? That is the time. It is always in a low point in human history when accelerations and paradigm shifts are created. So just know that what is happening right now is helping not only the collective wake up, but it's helping you step into your zone of genius. It's helping you step into your power and sovereignty. It's helping you align with your authenticity and the truth. And when you are aligned with all four of those things, and we can access and turn ourselves on to that, into our power, guess what? We become unstoppable, unfuckwithable, and literal paradigm shifters within ourselves. Not only within our lives, but we can shift the paradigm for the better by who we are being at that higher frequency. Okay. I love you guys so much. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please don't hesitate to drop me a comment or a DM. And please always, if this was helpful, please share this episode with friends or family. And if you wouldn't mind, please leave me a review and just help this little podcast get out to as many people as possible. I love you guys so much, and welcome to the tribe if you're new here. And I will see you on not only the next episode, but hopefully in one of my other platforms, and get to work with you in the future. Thank you so much for tuning into the Sacred Path podcast. It is always an honor and a pleasure to share the wisdom, knowledge, and insight that I have learned on my journey and that others have learned on theirs. So please tune in, share, like, and follow, give us a review, and if you would like to work with me in any capacity, please follow the link to my website and either choose a sacred offering on the website or send me a DM. Love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day.